just gives me a deeper understanding in whatever it is I'm working
Dealing
on.
with the mafia in Thailand helped with this scenario.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Here we go.
Podcast. I'm here with the
Money, making crap for money, money,
and I don't know what it is about Vegas. Like I always said Vegas was like a melting pot of people.
It's a unique energy.
It's very unique. It's this melting pot of like the misfits almost in a way. And
there's not too many people from here. That's another unique thing about it.
Yeah.
Like, because it's grown so rapidly in such a short amount of time. I mean, I'm kind of from here because middle school and high school I lived here, but then I moved away for 20 years.
20 years?
Yeah. Well, 19 years.
19 years. So you moved away.
So I graduated high school, and then I went to college, and then I went on a backpacking journey, and that landed me in Thailand.
That's when you ended
years.
up in Thailand.
Yeah.
And then military.
And then when my son was born, that's when I decided to move back because I didn't want to raise a family in Thailand. I thought that it would limit opportunities for my son. And so I was like, all right, let's go with the U.S. And then when we came back, it was like during the 2008 recession. Like, it was end of 2009 when I came back, and there was no jobs or anything. And I had already kind of started thinking about joining the military, before.
Yeah.
I thought, let me do this. And then I did.
And then
they sent me back to Asia. I was in Korea for like 3 years.
It was like, it's a similar language. You can figure it out in there. Are we gone? Oh, sorry, I couldn't see the thing. That's how intros go here at Summit Chasers Podcast. But welcome everybody. I have a very special guest today. I love what I do for this reason. I get to speak with some amazing individuals that maybe a lot of people haven't heard of. Also, I like speaking obviously to the individuals that have the following and have. They have all these names and numbers to their resume, but it's the ones that are doers, that care about the community, have built stuff, have fixed stuff, broken stuff, came back and fixed it again, including themselves. These kind of conversations are kind of near and dear to my heart. So very welcome to have Brandon Mills on the podcast.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming, man.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's an honor.
I don't know when we actually hit record, so which is totally fine. But your experience, you have a very wide variety of an experience set, I would say, which is great for a lot of things in a lot of ways. So you moved, you went backpacking, you went to college. What did you go to college for after high school?
I never did anything with it, but initially I went to learn IT.
Okay.
So when I was in high school, that was where I started my first company called Team Tech. We did on-site computer repair, and I was super tech nerd, built computers, fixed computers, and networks, and kind of the late '90s, tech boom.
The boom.
Yeah, and I was a part of that. And the first semester at college, I was in an IT class, and I felt like I knew my stuff, and I really did. And the instructor there it was a big lecture hall type class, and I did a test, knew everything on the test, and I scored really low. And I thought, what is this? And so I went to her office hours, and I was like, how is this wrong? And I could argue each question that I had marked. And her response to me was like, well, did you open the book? It's like, well, you wanted the book answers or you want the real answers? And it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth with all of that. So I was taking a few different classes just kind of, out of curiosity. And I came across criminal justice. And I found it fascinating. All the different schools of thought, sociology and psychology and criminology. And it was all these different ways of looking at a problem, and I loved it. And I always feel that if you are truly interested in something, you're gonna be fine. Like you're gonna you'll excel. So I changed my major to criminal justice and went that route, and then never did anything with it.
I was about to say the rest of your story doesn't.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they had a list of people that got certain degrees and then actually went on to do the thing in the degree title, it'd probably be a pretty short list.
I think it's a low percentage of people that actually are, have a profession in the study that they
definitely adjacent
Yeah.
but not like in the thing as much. Obviously, the doctors and lawyers, obviously,
Right.
and that kind of stuff. So you went to college, and then you went right to backpacking, and ended up in Thailand.
Yeah. So while I was in college, it was during, I can't remember what year it was, like 2003 maybe. It was right on the tail end of the SARS epidemic. I don't know if you remember SARS. Singapore was subsidizing flights because their tourism industry was hit so hard. So for like $300, I got a round trip flight to Singapore, and I backpacked from Singapore up through Malaysia and into Thailand. This is my first experience in Asia, and when I got to Thailand, I discovered this island and this beach, and I fell in love with it. I didn't want to leave, and so when I returned back to the U.S., I knew I wanted to go back there, as soon as possible. And so graduated 2005. My dad, at the time, he had been saving up for college for me, for a while. And there was about $10,000 that was there. And he's like, well, you have $10,000 to use. And he said, what do you want to do with it? Thinking that I was going to put down on a car or something,
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm going to travel. And my plan was to go as long as I possibly could on $10,000. I wanted to see if I can stretch it out over a year in Asia. And
Yeah.
I got a one-way ticket to Moscow. And I know, yeah. I took the long way. I took the scenic route.
Yeah.
It was the Trans-Siberian Railway. It's a train ride that goes through Russia. There's a whole story of how I ended up through Mongolia. My visa was running out in Russia, and I had to get out of the country, before I created more problems for myself. And so I ended up going into Mongolia, which I absolutely loved.
I hear it's really pretty. I hear there's a lot
gorgeous.
of really cool stuff. Yeah.
I went during the winter, so it was cold, and they're surprised that a backpacker was even there. It was like, traveled around in Mongolia for a little while, stayed in yurts, like going to places where they'd never seen a foreigner before, and it was fascinating.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. Like these all-inclusive resort, they're great, but
They're
like,
fun, yeah.
staying in yurts, doing the actual experience.
I wanted to do it a different way than
Yeah.
what the common tourist does. Ended up traveling through China down to Hong Kong. Just meeting people along the way. This is an entirely solo trip, but I met a lot of people during this journey. But the ultimate goal was for me to end up back on this beach in Thailand where I had discovered a few years prior. And so from Hong Kong, I took a flight to Bangkok. That was the first time I flew because going from Moscow all the way to Hong Kong via land.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
that's a trek. That's a Lord
it was
of
a
the
while.
Rings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But it was the experience. I mean, it was not easy. There was a lot of challenges along the way, but learning different cultures and how to navigate those different problems that you come across.
Communication barriers.
Oh, yeah.
Just ecosystem. It's just
Yeah.
so many things. Yeah.
But I find that, I mean, at the time it was just an exciting challenge for me. But now I see the value in that, in experiencing different cultures and different people from all over the world, and figuring out ways to continue going. But once I made it to Thailand, I was like, I'm gonna relax for a little bit. But I ultimately had the goal, of going for a year. I wanted to go to India still. Like, I still haven't been there yet. I ended up meeting a girl, and that's what happens.
That's how it happens.
I know.
man.
And so I came to this crossroads where I was like, well, I could always go to India later. Let me see if this is going to work out. We ended up hitting it off pretty well. But then it came time to where my money was running out. And in order for me to continue, I was going to have to work. I got a job in Bangkok teaching English for a little bit, but it wasn't my passion. It was fun though. I mean, it was still exciting because I'm in Bangkok and I'm learning the culture, learning the language, and it was a lot of fun. But I wanted to go back to that island, so we we decided to. So we raised some capital and went down to the island, and it was just enough to buy a speedboat. I mean, I guess it wasn't directly that way. Like I was gonna do 4-wheeler tours, like quad bikes.
Okay.
And I got one of those, and then all of a sudden, all these other companies on the island got one. I got a bunch of them. It was, just kind of took my initial business plan.
Follow the American capitalist.
Yeah, and they did great with it. And I was like, oh man, now I have to immediately compete with all these people. So I shifted and got a boat, and we did speedboat charter tours around Koh Phangan, which is the island where the full moon party is for people that know of that region. And there was unique challenges in that too. Dealing with corrupt local government, mafia, these different. Yeah, so they were fine with me operating a business there as long as I didn't take their piece of the action, which was the full moon party. That's where they make all their money. So as long as I didn't work that night, they were fine with me working the rest of the month. And because they made all their money doing trips from Koh Samui, which is they've got an airport there, and they could charter, they could taxi people over by boat to this party, and so during that time, ran it for about 2 years. My wife at the time got pregnant, and when my son was born, that's when my mindset shifted. And I thought, oh, it's not about me anymore.
Does that? Yeah.
Yeah. So here I am. It was a great experience and a great lifestyle. I wasn't making a lot of money, but I feel like I didn't need that. But then when it was no longer about me, we decided that it would be more opportunities for my son to grow up in the U.S. Because we weren't making a lot of money in Thailand. I mean, you can have a lot of great opportunities raising a family in Thailand, but it's going to be expensive if you want to send them to international schools. And I just didn't have that. I didn't have those resources. So we moved back 2009, and towards the end of 2009, and the economy was recovering from the 2008 financial
So you're in
collapse.
Thailand when that was going on?
I was in Thailand when that was going on.
Just watching it, yeah.
Just kind of watching it. It didn't affect me at all until I came back, and there was no opportunities anywhere. But I had always kind of had in the back of my mind that I wanted to join the military, and I'm 27 years old at this point, and so I enlisted and became a tanker. And
oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. So
it's kind of backwards. You were saying earlier that you kind of did things backwards. Usually it depends. I mean, you get in the military, you serve, your 2 years, and then you get out and you do your traveling and that kind of stuff.
A lot of people will join the military right out of high school.
Or they go to do it 7 years earlier than you did, or 9 years earlier than you did. Yeah.
Right. But it was a great experience, too. But it opened my eyes to a lot of things about the U.S. and the government and inefficiencies and things. And the way they kind of you don't have any kind of personal freedoms. You are at the whims of the needs of the military, and so they involuntarily reclassed me to a different job, and they're sending me to all these different places. And I thought this isn't working out great. So I decided to ETS, which is termination of your service, and I got my honorable discharge, did my full contract, and during that time, while I was preparing to exit the military, I went to a truck driving school and got my CDL, and so I drove over the road just after getting out of the military for about 5 months, and that didn't make a lot of money, and I was away from home all the time. I was like, this isn't great. But one of the guys that I served with in Korea, he had gotten a job at an oil company in Texas. And he said, man, you got the CDL, you got everything, and he vouched for me and got me on with this really good company. And so I went to work there, and that was the first time I ever experienced like money. It was like, oh,
First taste.
yeah, the first taste of it. But in order to get that money, I had to sell a lot of my time. But I maximized how much I could get for my time, and then I sold as much of it as I could. But I also, at that point, realized that it wasn't about money that I wanted. It was the freedom that I cherished more than anything. And while I was in there too, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that happened. The company sold our department to another company, went with the equipment. It was a whole lot of politics that played out. When the price of oil went down, I got laid off. But because I got laid off, they had to pay out the rest of that retention bonus that I had. So now I had money, and but no job. And I thought, what am I going to do now? Well, things weren't working out too well with the woman I was with, and it was just from the outside looking in, it looked like I had everything together. You know, I had a ranch in Texas and had all the animals and toys, and it was it looked like a pretty cool life, but I was miserable. And so I decided to come back to Southern Nevada, which I had always considered home. That's where my parents are, my brothers, and I had 2 businesses prior. You know, I had the computer repair business and the speedboat charter business. And I thought, and both of which I had started from scratch. But now I thought, you know, let me see what kind of businesses are available for sale, and you know what I could find that already is operational. Because to start a business and to found a business takes a lot of time and effort, and I wanted to try to skip those steps. I started looking online and came across Total Promotion Company. An older gentleman and his wife, along with one employee, they were running, you know, this company that was making merchandise and apparel for different companies and organizations. I could do that. That doesn't seem like it would be too bad. I mean, obviously, you know, there's a lot more that goes into it, but I shadowed him for about 2 months and ended up buying the business off of him. And that was at the end of 2019, December 2019. And so I'm all in.
Right before COVID, yeah.
Yep. 2.5 months prior. So I went all in, and then COVID happened. And it was a struggle. Yeah, I thought my timing was just so bad. But I couldn't allow it to fail. I just can't. This is everything that I had ever, you know, worked for. And so I just hustled. Like during that time, everybody else was trying to stay indoors, and I was going out trying to figure it out. I had my Jeep that I had purchased and built up from the oil industry. Still had that, and so I'd go hang out with a bunch of Jeep groups, and that's where I discovered networking. And there was different business owners and decision makers that also had Jeeps, and we'd just go out and play. And through that, we got to, you know, build relationships, and everybody started sending business my way. I thought, oh, this is okay. This is how I'm going to do it. So then I decided, like, oh, I need to just go out everywhere and find it and just meet as many people as I can. And I still do that now. Like last year, I tried to build a digital marketing platform, engine to try to drive business to us, and it failed miserably. It didn't work. So I thought, oh, let's go back to doing what I know works, and that's what saves the company every time.
100%. There's so many things that I want to dive in. There's so many different topics. The first one of which, as I brought up at the beginning, your experience and the skill sets that you develop within each of those experiences is very diverse. And this is something that's hard for a lot of people. Even if they don't have the breadth of experience that you do, they still have lessons that they can take from. And it's really hard for people. It seems to be hard for people, harder for some, to take the lessons and learn from those.
Right.
So how did you apply? Like, again, that's so different. Like doing a charter, like a small, like you had a speedboat. You're basically like a water Uber in Thailand.
Kinda, yeah.
Like more I didn't want to. It's fancier than that. It's cooler than that. But still, you developed that model. I even think Uber at that point. Uber definitely wasn't a thing.
Uber
right?
wasn't
that
a
was
thing
that was 2008, 9. Uber wasn't a thing. So I'll give you credit for Uber at that point. But like the experiences in that, like it's so different. It's very different than what you're doing right now. Like the total promotion company is very different. And even some of the companies, we don't have to get into that today, but you have a few other ideas that we've been talking about on the side, very different from that. But there's still lots that you can take in from that.
Yeah.
So what would your advice be to those that they have experiences? Again, they might not be like this. I started a business before, I've done those sort of things, but everybody has lessons from things that they've done.
Yeah.
And taking it into what they're trying to accomplish now, and then provide some sort of confidence in the fact that they can accomplish those things.
There's a lot of times where I'll try something new, and I don't realize that my past experiences are going to play into it until I'm already in it. And I thought, oh man, this gives me a deeper understanding in whatever it is I'm working
Doing
on.
with the mafia in Thailand helped with this scenario.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sure it did. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like during lockdowns, I ran for state senate on the Libertarian
you skipped
ticket.
that part.
Yeah. So and I really try to Here's another thing that it's kind of a fundamental ideology that I have is that if I see somebody doing something, I don't see them as something special. And if they can do it, I can do it. Like a lot of these people are idiots, and if those idiots can do it,
It's true.
I can do it, and I can figure it out. And it's played true so many times where I'm like, oh, well, there's so many different things that you come across. You have an idea and you want to try it, and you're like, oh, maybe I can't do it. Well, maybe you can do it. It's and I know I can do it because that idiot over there is doing it, and he's no better than I am. And so it that gives me the drive to be able to try something that other people are doing. Like I can look at anything and be like, man. Now there's going to be a lot of challenges. You're going to have to learn a lot, and don't be afraid to learn. Life is constant learning. Once you become stagnant and stop, if you stop trying anything, what do they say? Like those that retire, like they pass away, like at an average 5 years after they stop working.
Yeah, there's a weird stat with that. Yeah.
So you got to keep yourself active.
Yeah, it's an interesting people they think that they need to jump into something and be good at it right away.
No,
everyone's afraid of being shitty at things.
Yeah, don't be afraid to fail.
Like we have so many, and that's like kind of the good and the bad thing about social media is that you see the highlights and you see the end product. They don't see how that product was built. Like some people look at your business; it's a successful business. They don't look at the lessons that you learned from an IT business that you did, the failed digital marketing piece that that seemed like that wasn't as long ago. Going to the military, lessons that you learned there, living in yurts.
There's
going across Mongolia.
There's little pieces you take with you each time, and it might seem very insignificant at the time while you're going through it and gaining those experiences, but they can be incredibly valuable later on in life.
It's huge. Even just the proof that you can figure shit out.
Yeah.
You, again,
it gives you the confidence.
100%. Like you traveling from, was it Moscow and then, that was
not easy.
I really want to get to this island, so I'm going to go to like the craziest part and I'm going to try to get to the island. But it's the fact that you could navigate that. I have proof that I can navigate difficult situations, therefore I can. And then you have like free, and then everybody's motivation's a little bit different. Like you and me are kind of similar in that way, where we see people that are doing something, and either they're just not doing it up to the standard that that you could do it at. Yeah. And then you're like, I kind of want to do that, or at least I have the confidence that I can do that. Right. So it's just it's a mixture of these things. But I think it's just like people are scared of being shitty at things.
And another thing too, I use ADD as a superpower. It's I have a lot of interests, and I like to explore those interests. And using ADD, you can get hyper focused on things. But then you're also like distracted by many things. It's a challenge, but it's also a blessing.
Yeah, big time. Well, that's just you learn to use the skills and strengths that you have. Some people look at that as a weakness, and there's so many people that are like self-victimizing. As opposed to how could I channel this thing? Like I'm very similar to that, where I have a lot of interests, but I found that because of that, I'm very good at being that student of this game of like business and that kind of thing. So therefore I can explore a plethora of interests through working with clients and from makeup to luxury real estate. So it's kind of
I mean, culturally now, with this victim mentality that people have, trying to skirt having personal accountability, like you make a decision and you go with it, and if something doesn't work out the way that you thought it was going to, it's not the end of the world. In fact, if you play it right, that failure, I guess what you would call a failure, I call it experience, is you could play into so much success in so many different areas. I mean, I'm still afraid to fail, but I'm not afraid to try. I'm afraid of catastrophic failure. I hate going back to zero.
Yeah, there's levels.
Yeah,
There's levels.
I hate going back to zero. I've done it a couple times, but I do know that if I did go back to zero, that I would get back to where I'm at and probably further a lot faster.
We have proof of doing it.
Right.
We have proof.
Right.
And a lot of people won't put themselves in that position
Right.
to even give themselves the proof. And then, the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And
Yeah.
then we can get into the whole topic of, these kids growing up not having very many, at least in certain, there's lots of kids in demographics that have struggles.
Yeah.
The loudest ones are usually the ones that don't have any struggles.
Yeah.
So then they get an offender bender, and that's now officially the worst thing that's ever happened to them. So they freak out as if they have a similar reaction as to us, is that we just lost who knows how much money on a business venture that just tanked. You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
kind of it's an interesting how do we get that back without just kicking everybody?
I don't know. I look at history very cyclically instead of linear. And the old adage that history repeats itself is very true. And so I'm a firm believer that you can predict the future based on patterns that you've seen in the past. And I think that the way things are going right now, there'll be something that corrects it, and it'll come back around.
If you're big on historical patterns, there's Ray Dalio, familiar with him? He's the author of Principles. He was the founder of Bridgewater.
Okay.
But he has a book. He has 2 books now. One that just came out, but his previous work called The New World Order: How Empires Rise and Fall.
Yeah.
And he basically hired a huge research team back before AI and all this kind of stuff, and they went through the last few thousand years of economical and empirical rises and falls.
Yeah.
And it's very cyclical. And then he has these kind of 5 stages that empires go through.
Yeah.
I can't off the top of my head remember of what the names of the stages were, but there's think of Germany for an example. It's an easy one that most people know about. After the Treaty of Versailles, they were at the bottom.
Yeah.
They were in stage 1. They were recovering. They had no their economy was done. The job market was done. The value of their money was almost non-existent. People were throwing money in the trash. And then again, it's a terrible example. It's a terrible part of our history, but it's a good example because it's kind of it happened very exponentially in the grand scheme of things, where it went through these 5 stages where and then they had a kind of a rise of a figure, somebody that they could rally around, and that's not always a figure. Sometimes it could be a political party, it could be a movement,
An
or
idea,
whatever it is.
yeah.
And really, if you really study the history, there was a group, Hitler was created.
Right.
It wasn't just him doing it. He was created and put on a pedestal because he was the loudest at the time. And then anyway, so they rallied around a movement, a religion. It could be either something like that. And then they all rallied together. And then very quickly, they kind of turned things around. Economically, they actually were doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And then they started to try to overstep and militarize and police those around them. Then they kind of overstep and overinvest in some things.
Yeah.
And then obviously they got, everybody knows how the end of World War II happened. And then they went right back down to the beginning, having to kind of rebuild. So they went through these kind of 5, I think they skipped a few stages, but they went through these kind of 5 stages. And right now, if you look at, it's kind of scary to look at the U.S., it's kind of right at the top. And if you study the fall of Rome,
Yes.
very similar, where you have the technical term, I don't know, but the pussification of a population. Maybe the least technical term about it. Everybody's very divided. You have polarizing figures on either side, a very divided population. And you also have the correlation between a successful economy and the amount that the individual population puts into the effectiveness of the population. So how much each individual in the population is contributing to the whole. Where you see that in the U.S., that's very little. You see how many people are on food stamps, not wanting to work. We talk about self-victimizing, that type of thing. Like we're right at that top of that stage 4 or 5. It's kind of scary.
There's another book called The Fourth Turning. I don't know if you've
heard of that one.
Yeah.
I haven't read it, but I know.
I can't think of the author's name at the moment. But it's a great book, and it looks at these cyclical patterns as like seasons. So you've got a spring, which is where a country or a civilization is going through kind of a bountiful time. Comes into the summer, and then the fall. And then the winter is where things are falling apart. But if you see these patterns happening in your in your country, in your government, in your civilization, you can plan for the winter and have a really bountiful spring.
Yeah.
And so, knowing that this is coming, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And you can see throughout history where countries have fallen, and what rises up out of the ashes can be wonderful or horrifying.
Yeah. The example, Germany is the exact same thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Where, Nazi Germany rose up out of the ashes of the Treaty of Versailles, the problem that, and so knowing this, how do you structure, after the winter? So the winter being the collapse, to where you can have the correct rebuild in a civilization, and that's the scariest thing is seeing it happen and being powerless to do anything about it. It's kind of interesting. I think it's fascinating. Like, this is kind of why I did criminal justice, because you dive deep into these kind of thought experiments of how things are in society.
Yeah, it's this is kind of scary especially when you're part of it. Because you have fairly young kids, like they're not. You said one's going into. He's a senior in high school. And one's going into grade 8.
Yeah, my oldest is a senior in high school. My youngest is going into grade 8.
Yeah, so we see, and then mine are 7 and 5 years old, not going into the grades. They're 7 and 5 years old. Like, it's kind of, that's the freaky thing.
Yeah,
is what are they going to be, and then how do we prepare them for it right now while they're in this soft era sort of thing? How do you prepare them for what could be coming without?
It's crazy too, because the what they're growing up in right now is nothing like what we grew up in. And so offering advice, or, not that they would take it anyway.
Yeah, well, there's that. There's that.
But just their challenges and their experience, through adolescence is vastly different than what we experienced. Whereas throughout history, very little technological change has happened, between generations. Now we're experiencing exponential growth in technology that is drastically changing the world every 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And so each generation is so vastly different from the next. And there's things that they're growing up with right now that weren't even a thought, when we're growing up in that same thing. So their challenges are unique to them, and how are they going to navigate it?
And our ability to advance psychologically, emotionally is so far behind and so much slower.
We evolve a lot slower than
technology, and even politically, economically, it evolves so much faster. So it's just we're falling even more behind.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting dichotomy. Like I was in my 5-year-old. We had orientation, like parent orientation for kindergarten, and I'm in there, and there's no chalkboard, there's no whiteboard or anything. There's just this giant touch screen.
Yeah.
And like it's that, like, I don't know, it was just very. I also grew up in a small town, so like we had cows right outside my kindergarten, so it was just very, very different. So I'm in there, and I'm just like, man, like navigating this, and then social media and pressure, like societal pressures and that kind of stuff. It's just like, what do we do? Like, I take them out in the desert and show them how to shoot a gun. Like, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that you can do. it's you plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah, 100%.
And you know, and in the worst case scenario, you know, what are some skills that would be, you know, valuable to have? You know, I think, you know, gold guns and ammo, or you know, the currency that you know happens when the economy falls apart. It's and looking at, you know, how money is structured and how it works and how the Federal Reserve plays into, you know,
so
things.
Volatile.
And I mean, there's not a single commodity-backed currency in the world now. You know, we were it up until the early 70s, and then you can see the inflation rates on charts that happened. You know, if you just look at a chart and you're like, oh, what happened right here? Oh, well, you can tie that directly to the severance of gold with our money.
That happened. Yeah, that was Reagan.
Nixon.
That did that.
So I mean, it was Woodrow Wilson initially back in 1913, but you know, with the creation of the Federal Reserve. But then Nixon severed the gold standard with backing it for other countries. And so that completely severed the dollar from any kind of commodity. They kind of went into, you know, U.S. dollar as a reserve currency with oil, you know, trading, and there's a lot of things that, you know, which has a lot to do with, you know, the wars that we've had. You know, the World War I was only possible because of the Federal Reserve, and because they would not be able to get support to fund a war without just being able to print it behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's and then you have kind of like we're on like 4-year planning cycles. So each term, all they're doing, each party is just, okay, I got to do what I need to do in this 4 years so I can win the next election. They're not thinking, how am I setting things up
it's
for 50
trying to
years
maintain
from now?
power. That's
all it
that's
is.
what it is. And then expansion of power.
Exactly. That's the thing. How do I expand it? Then how do I keep it for my... It's an oligarchy. Like, how do I keep it within my group?
It's crazy because they'll expand power and then be upset when, you know, the other, you know, their opponent takes the power and then uses the power that they expanded against them. And they're like, well, you can't do that. Well, they can do it because you're the one that created it for them.
You had the blueprint. You had the blueprint for it. Yeah, I don't want to turn this into a political conversation, but it's things to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much noise, and there's, you know, great advice is, you know, the best lesson that you can learn is how do you decipher between signals and noise, and pay attention to the signals.
As a business owner, understanding value. So there's a good book that was written back in the 70s called Economics in One Lesson, and it kind of lays out Austrian economics. And when you have a deep understanding of value, the dollar isn't as important. I mean, I can accept, you know, whether it be silver or crypto or whatever the commonly traded commodity or currency is at the time. I make shirts for people that want them, and if people want shirts, I'll accept whatever currency that is, you know, because I'm creating value. What value do you create for others? If you're not creating any value, who's gonna trade it? Who's gonna accept it? So understanding what value is and how value plays to others, I mean, that's the key to success right there.
So you use the term value. Let's sit on that for a minute, Brandon. The term value, that could mean something different for a lot of people, because right now we're running into the philosophical question of just because we can, should we?
Right.
Like, we could provide value, but are we providing value in the right direction? Are we providing vanity value, or are we providing... Because there's a lot, because I'm speaking more from, because you get all these like AI tech startups, and then you have the Sasquatches who are faking everything, and then you can't tell the difference. There's new one that just came out. I think it was the GEO. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. I'll find that out afterwards. Like, you literally can't tell the difference. As a talking head, you cannot tell the difference if it's a human or not.
That's amazing.
So it's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool that we can do that. But I feel like there's been some movies made of like why we shouldn't do that. Not that movies are can tell the future, but other than The Simpsons. But again, we're running into that just because we can, should we? And then what is true value that's going to help us long term? Not just I'm giving vanity value for the sake of I can sell this thing.
Right. Well, I mean, selling is a way to, commodify your value. So, AI that is created right now is incredibly valuable because it takes so much less time and resources to create something that took a long time before. Like, for instance, I'm doing print-on-demand shirts, full-color things that, but it was very difficult to create an image. It would take some time. You take a designer, and now that same designer can cut 90% of the time out of their creation by doing a few tricks. I've always said that AI will get you 90% of the way there, but you've got to have the knowledge to take it the rest of the way. Otherwise, it's worthless. So maybe as AI increases, it'll take you 99% of the way there. And for some people, that's good enough. But for those that need that perfect product, whether that be a service or a digital product or a physical product, it's got to be there. Otherwise it's worthless.
See, this is where the weird dichotomy is. I'm just playing devil's advocate to some of this. So you have AI and agents, and I built like 3 agents over the weekend. It's easier if I can figure it out. You can do it. But they're things that I used to have to hire a few people to do now. So we talked about from Ray Dalio's work again. I'm just using it from that original his philosophy on. One of the big indicators of a successful country and empire is how much value does your population give back to the whole. And so I used to have 5 people. I used to need 5 people to do this thing that these 2 agents can do now. Now those 5 people are no longer needed.
Right.
So I became more valuable.
Yeah.
Does that offset the other 5 people that are now devalued and might be more likely to then have to go rely on the system? So that's like the argument.
Right.
I'm not on one side or the other. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are.
So it depends on the value that those 5 people are providing. So if they are not also adapting with the times, the best thing they can do is figure out how to use the tools that are available now. So because if those 5 people came back and be like, hey, look what I can do with these tools that are now available. We can scale you 10 times as fast. You would hire them right now. You would have those 5 people back, and you would be growing exponentially. So it definitely, the value is in what somebody's willing to pay for something, and what and if that's labor. So look at value in labor. So right now we have a big problem with people being horrified by AI replacing them. But look back through history where technology has always displaced markets.
Henry Ford was the first that did
it,
right?
The horse and buggy market shot down.
The assembly line and all that.
But nobody ever anticipated jobs like mechanic would be developed. We don't know what kind of markets are going to be created out of this. Could we potentially be going into a different era of where people value art? You're going to have more artists. You don't know. You don't. Or is there what kind of industries are gonna form out of this that we can't even conceive of right now?
Yeah,
it's hard to know. And you don't know it until it's there.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. Like I'm more on that side where we need to get out of the mindset of it's either, because it seems like everybody's on like one side or the other, like most things that they are. But in the middle, it's okay. Those 5 people that I just used in my example, how could we make them 10 times more effective each to then, as the whole, be 50 times more effective as a company, rather than like I can just do the same thing I was doing and just replace them.
At my shop, all my staff, they have access to a ChatGPT account. They also have access to Canva. They have access to several different AI platforms to make, and I want them to use it because they can have so much more output for my business by using those tools. I'm not getting rid of them.
Yeah.
I'm giving them more efficiency.
Yeah. And it always goes back to the victimized mindset. I'm like, it's going to replace my job, so I'm just going to not do anything
right
now, rather than, Like, there's never been a time where you can learn a skill faster than right now.
Oh my goodness!
Like those
all
5
the
people could have
information is
learned
available.
exactly. Like those 5 people, they could go and learn in a weekend how to build something like that, or at least how to be somewhat proficient at it to understand it enough to be more valuable. Then
how do you cure apathy?
Yeah, fuck. Talk about something valuable we could sell.
Yeah, I guess so.
No, yeah, it's just it's a weird time. Like you're right. It's also, it seems like it's been like there's the Industrial Revolution, and then there was the .com, and then there's kind of in the last 3 years really have been like these like the more recent. There's hundreds of other examples of that, like the wheel.
Yeah,
you could go back to probably one of the first, or fire.
Sure.
One of the first examples of that, where like we're in this very big, it has to happen faster now, and I think that's where all people are freaking out. The Industrial Revolution, things were a little bit like, it took time to build the factory, it took time to learn how to mass produce things, it took time to learn how to order that much supplies at a time. Like it took time, where now things are just like, we need to be quicker at adapting, and that's where,
and we've got a population boom too.
Exactly. Then there's now we're dealing with 370 million people rather than 50 million people.
We're at 8 billion in the world now, I think.
It's
and
wild.
when I was younger, I mean, only 20 years ago, it was 6 billion. So
I remember when we hit 6. I do remember that. Yeah, that was a big day. It was, but I do remember when we passed like the 6 and 7 and that kind of thing. So it's just, so there's just more people now to change, and then again, people are more divided, and they're less likely to listen to somebody if you slightly disagree on one thing. Like, oh, you watch that news channel, I'm not going to listen to any fucking thing you say, even though you have some really good points.
It's so difficult to believe, what's being put out, because so much of it has been proven to be false, and everybody's pushing a narrative, and how do you sift through all the information to know what's real and what's not? It's not easy.
No.
You have to go in with a very skeptical mind.
Everybody has to be like a proper researcher now.
Yeah.
Everybody has to be a proper researcher now, and not be afraid to not be good at something.
Yeah.
You just can't, like, again, I sat down all weekend. I probably spent 20 hours figuring out how to create like some fairly complex agents, but I was like, this is what I'm doing this weekend. Yeah. And that first 18 hours of that 20 was very frustrating, Brandon.
Yeah.
But they're just not willing. People aren't willing to do that.
Why?
Again,
distraction.
We could. There's distraction. There's the victim mindset. There's a consumer mindset. There's
a lot of jealousy and envy. Seeing somebody that has it, but they don't know. They just want the end result without the work that it takes to get there.
That's a big one. That's a big one. And I think there's like, obviously there's so many subcat. And there's fear.
Yeah.
There's fear. Like people that watch Terminator too many times growing up, sort of thing. I used to be one of them. Or whatever. Like there's this fear of, and especially like in older populations. Like both my parents, they're former nurses, and they're just like, I don't want to understand it. I'm not even going to try to understand it.
Yeah.
Even though they probably could mentor a lot of people in, like they've been through a lot of big adjustments before. Like people like that could, but they're almost like, I'm not even going to bother anymore.
They don't have the capacity to take on any more kind of. And I wonder if that too is something that happens with age, and because I remember when I was in the tech industry, in high school, a large part of our customer base was like old ladies trying to talk to their grandkids, and we would go after school to go teach them how to use their computer or or fix it, and they had just what we thought was such simple concepts.
Yeah.
They didn't want to learn it. They just wanted to know exactly where they had to push to make the thing happen that they wanted to do. So I wonder, too, if we're going to get that way, as we age.
I don't know if we can anymore. I don't mean we can't. We can do whatever we want, and then we just can't bitch about the results we get. But we probably will. But I don't think that we're in a position where we can do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like who knows what the future is going to look like, but our whole house might be a fucking Apple house. Or I think Apple's struggling right now. Or a Samsung house, whatever the fuck's there in the future, a GPT house, and like we're gonna have to.
Well, these tech companies have had a lot of success in making tech easier for the common user.
And that was really Apple that started that.
Yeah,
was,
absolutely.
Yeah, user interface being the most important piece.
And so just being able to talk to it and have it give you the result that you're wanting, but what happens when that breaks?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, there's so many things that could.
Like we're so reliant on GPS for navigation now.
That's what I was going to say. You navigated from Moscow to fucking Thailand with no, there's no GPS at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if there was, it was that big one you had to put on your, and it was like, and you had to like re-upload
it would give you latitude and longitude.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's interesting. And I don't know where we're going to end up. And it's also, I mean, there's a lot of things that have to go right for us to even get to that point in 20, 30 years from now. There's a lot of things that could go wrong between now and then that'll put us back.
The way that technology is exponentially growing right now too is we don't know what it's going to look like 5 years from now. 10 years from now is just you can't conceive what it's going to be.
No, there's
2 weeks from now, you know, it's there's going to be five new prominent things that are out.
And even if you
would you say how many daily? You told me before daily, like how many AI companies?
Weekly it was. This is about a month ago now, but it was weekly. There's 300 new AI wrapped companies coming out. Yeah, crazy.
Which ones are going to rise to the top? Which ones are good? Because there's going to be a lot of ones that don't.
There's a big graveyard.
Yeah.
Already, and so it's just. And also our way of thinking is going to change. So even what we thought we could predict what it's going to look like, it's going to be totally different because our way of thinking is changing.
Yeah.
The way we're interacting, the way we're communicating. You communicate with these LLMs, it's completely different. And if they become, as we get closer to AGI, the way it solves problems isn't going to be the way we solve problems. Therefore, we're going to find and utilize it in ways, and it's going to look at things from different angles than we ever thought possible.
Yeah.
So like when it was first coming out and we started doing images, I remember it really struggled. It still kind of struggled a little bit, but it's light years better already. It couldn't put words on the images. And it was because this is how it perceived to do these things. This is how it perceived that should look.
Yeah.
It didn't. So it has its own kind of perceptions based on, like it's just an algorithm, but it's based on an algorithm. But as that algorithm gets bigger and bigger and bigger, like our brains are just basically an algorithm in a lot of ways too.
I wonder if the human brains are going to start atrophying too, where they don't.
Well, there's studies on that. There have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. In I can't remember what the study was. It on school, like certain. I can't remember the age group, but I think it was either college or late high school, where they're showing that they are.
Yeah.
And on average, because their consumer mindset. In front of their phones, just watching YouTube.
There's a big push now going back to ancient wisdoms as well. A lot of the psychedelic type things that are coming out, going back and getting deep into your own brain and looking at things from different perspectives. And these are ancient, substances and thoughts and traditions and ceremonies that have been around since known human history. And I see that also growing at the same time everything else is growing. So it's such a fascinating time.
Yin and yang.
Yeah.
Yin and yang.
Yeah.
Well, and also with AI, it's been bringing up a lot more like the philosophical questions that we've kind of ignored.
Yeah.
Which is like, what does it mean to be human? What is intelligence?
What is consciousness?
What is consciousness? What is intelligence? Which is I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely some things, and like we've talked about how, like especially with AI, it kind of happened after COVID, and now with AI, in-person events and networking and shaking hands with people. Like I know you're real because you're in front of me. Hopefully, it seems more real to you because we're having a real conversation. I don't fucking cut anything, so like we're fucking our words up and shit. You can see that.
I think there's going to be a much higher value put on authenticity and genuine connection.
Yeah, like face-to-face time.
Yes, yeah. As we go into this new age, there'll be a lot more value put on things like this where you're face-to-face, especially as people start drifting further apart from each other. Yeah. It's going to it'll mean a lot more to go to an event. If you remember during lockdowns, all these online things started happening, and they just weren't the same. No. I always prefer in-person meetings over Zoom. However, like Zoom meetings though can be very convenient, for certain things. But if I'm trying to develop a connection with somebody, and I love people, so it's got to be face to face. It's got to be in person.
It's a tool.
Yeah,
it's a tool. And that's where you get into the question, just because I can. Should I have this meeting on Zoom, or is this more of a are we trying to develop a partnership? So we should probably do that in person. It's finding the right tool for the right thing. And again, there's just so many so many. I don't even want to call them tools, but there's just so many things.
Yeah.
There's so much noise.
Yes.
It's just getting more and more difficult to choose to make the right decision when I should be using these tools, when I should be getting face to face.
I mean, I work, my company is in the branding space, and in branding, it's very psychological, you know, and because there's so much noise in the world now, it used to be like 7 or 8 touch points, you know, like, you know, somebody sees a billboard and they hear something on, you know, a brand on the radio, and they see somebody with a shirt, and then somebody's talking about it over here. You know, each one of these are touch points, and it used to be like 7 or 8 before somebody like can know and recognize a brand. Now it's like 12 or 13 touch points.
Way more
because
than
there's so much noise. There's so many things in your face all the time that a lot of it gets lost. So now you're competing to get your brand in front of more eyes and to develop that recognition. Yeah. And it's just much more complicated now, much more difficult.
You know, and in marketing, it's 100% psychological. That's why I took psychology courses. That was the most valuable thing I took for marketing. It's playing on the recency bias a lot. The recency bias meaning if you're going to make a decision, you want the most recent thing or the thing that was loudest in my head that's tied to the pain point that I feel or the solution to this problem. Now you're right, there's so many more touch points. And also you have to be kind of, it's getting more and more difficult to stand out in a lot of ways. That's why you see, I just did a podcast today on somebody that she does content. It's like, what do you have to do to stand out? You have to do like ridiculous and funny to stand out. You do something ridiculous, somebody chuckles at it. That leaves more of an imprint in their head. So when they're going to make a decision or when something comes up, they're more likely to reference that because of the recency bias. It's coming more and more difficult to pull on that.
For my business, I rely on relationships. Referrals are the biggest driver of business more than anything.
Well, then there's the trust factor in referrals. 100%.
That's exactly right. And what can you trust now too? So being able to trust somebody, you know, and develop relationships. Like I go out to these networking events and things, not with the intention to sell, but with the intention to meet people and just figure out who's real. Yeah. Who do I want to work with? Yeah. And I find my people. I find my tribe. You know, you find people that you relate to. You know, you've got similar experiences. You've got all these things, and they become your friends. You know, and from that, your network opens up to a whole wide like. Las Vegas is such a unique place because I feel like we really have a genuine community here.
Yeah, yeah, and we have like this naivety, like this excited naivety too, in a lot of ways, especially in like business, startup kind of thing. It's a lot of fun, a lot of fun to be a part of it. And I've said it multiple times. I ignored it. I ignored Vegas when I was here with my agency before. All of our clients were elsewhere, and now that we're diving in, I'm like, this is home. It's a really cool place. Yeah, I get asked at home. Because I'm from a small town in Canada, and they asked me like, what hotel do you stay at? It's like no, it's like this whole city, this whole ecosystem that's outside of that. But we could talk about this shit all day. Oh yeah, dude. This was fantastic conversation. Where can people find you? And I used to always ask this question at the end of podcasts, like, what's the next summit that you're chasing? Yeah. It's like, what's the next big thing that you're kind of shooting for that you're willing to share?
Sure. So. You know, as I said, my daughter, my youngest, is going into 8th grade, and so there's 5 years of school left.
That goes by quick when you're our age.
The last 5 years went by very fast. So I mean, a lot has happened in those 5 years. But that light at the end of the tunnel of me being an empty nester is growing brighter, and so I'm starting to think about next steps and what I want to do. And for me, I want to move back to Thailand. That same place that I found, you know, initially when I was in college and traveled. I have visited that beach 6 years ago, and it's completely developed now. The bungalow that I paid $2 a night to stay in is now 5-star resorts, and so that doesn't exist anymore for me. But I am going to find the next paradise and go back to it, and then not have any more kids. So
there's a key. There's a key in that, yeah.
Well, and the way I think about it now too is I'm going back with a whole lot more experience and knowledge of that you know, from when I left last. And so anything that I do over there, like, you know, I call it retirement, but it's not. Yeah. You know, I'll have a business. I'll have something that I'm working on even from there. I'm looking at other businesses within these next 5 years, even. It's just keeping myself active and exploring new things. Like I've discovered this thing about myself that I have a lot of 5-year cycles, and I'm in my 5.5 years in my business now, and I'm like, what's next?
Yeah,
what's next?
Getting antsy. Yeah,
I'm getting antsy. So I'm realizing that about myself, and I don't want to stop exploring and learning new things. Like that's the most fascinating to me. This world is incredible. And the more you explore it, the more you realize how incredible it is. And so that's me. That's what I'm going to do forever is explore and try new things and see what happens. It's just that everything that I try now, I go in with a whole lot more experience and a whole lot more knowledge, and so I can try bigger things. I can try things that the 20-year-old me would have never imagined possible. But yet now I can.
With the confidence.
And I'm going to. If people want to find me, so Total Promotion Company, that's my business. That's a good way to find me. We produce merchandise, apparel, promotional products, display booths. We do brand consulting. What's the best possible product to get in front of your target market, your ideal client. That's what I do at the moment. And then, I'm not going to give out my personal email yet.
Don't do that.
So, but you can reach me directly at brandon@totalpromotioncompany.com. And if you're looking, but you can go to totalpromotioncompany.com if you're looking to order anything. I've also got a podcast that it's pretty well in its infancy. It's called the Impact Hustle, and it's theimpacthustle.com. A friend of mine that lives in Utah. It's all online. We have guests from all over, and we're booked out till like November right now.
That's great.
And it happens just so out of the blue. I saw a post from one of my friends online about a podcast, and I said, I was like, I'd love to be on your podcast. He's like, you want to start one with me? And I said, sure. And then within a week, it was already up and running. We had branding and everything. I used, my virtual assistant in the Philippines, tasked her with doing a whole bunch of stuff. Now we're on all the major platforms. And
nice.
It's just all happened. And it's the weirdest thing. We just manifested it, and now it's there. So that's another way. I would love to have guests. If you're interested, you can sign up on that website. Come to Vegas, come hang out. There's a lot of ways. I'm accessible.
He's not too accessible. I'm not going to tell you where he's going to be or anything like that. But no, you're an amazing human being. I'm so good. We met at a networking event. Actually, Trevin, who's behind the old cameras over here, he introduced us, I believe. At a networking event, which the next one's in the next week for that event. So
I'm going to Burning Man next week though. So
that's better. Yeah. do that.
I'll be gone for a little while.
That's a lot better. Yeah. And even when you're back, you'll be gone for a little bit from Burning Man.
It'll take me some recovery time.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, brother, it was amazing to have you. We'll definitely do another part. We can talk about that. We can
go deep down any one of these things.
I know. Yeah. We can go real deep. I was trying not to get too deep the first time. I was like, let's play. Let's feel things out a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely amazing. Everybody, if you want to sign up for the newsletter, you can get a better idea of what we got coming up as far as events, our new programs that we have coming out. Our 5-day growth sprint got a huge overhaul. We're really excited for that. So if you're a business owner, you're unsure of where you need to focus on in your business, creating that really clear strategy and how you need to move forward, where you allocate your resources and your time so you never waste it again. But until next time, everybody, thanks again, brother. Keep chasing your next summit.
Here we go.
Podcast. I'm here with the
money, making crap for money, money, and